Time for Chapter 13 of Pugs of the Frozen North by Philip Reeve and Sarah McIntyre. Chapter 13 is the penultimate chapter, and what does penultimate mean? It means the one before last, so we're very nearly there, friends. And I love this chapter. I like it because of this terrific picture. It's a picture of the Snowfather. We just got to his icicle palace, and he said, "So, who shall I give the prize to then?" And here's a picture of him. Look at that. I don't know if you'd imagined the Snowfather looking like that. I think he looked terrific, and I like all these pugs snuggling up to him because they like him so much. Yip, yip. Chapter 13. Who should he give the prize to? For a moment, nobody spoke except for Sir Basil, who said, "Me, I'm the winner, of course." But he was so muffled inside the box that the Snowfather didn't hear him. In the end, it was Shen who said, "None of us is the winner. Or we all are." "That's true," said Seeker. "We all got here together, and none of us could have made it without the others. I'd still be washing up for the Yetis if Snowbot hadn't gone and roused Shen." "We'd all be Yetis if Shen hadn't rescued us," said Shackleton. "And I'd have fallen into the chasm if Shen and Seeker hadn't helped me," Helga said. "And the pugs would have frozen if Helga hadn't nestled them in her beard, and we'd all have been blown up by Sir Basil's rocket if Sideplate hadn't saved us." "So none of us is the winner," said Shen sadly. "Not really." The Snowfather's wide white grin grew wider still. "Or maybe all of you are winners," he said. "For the first time ever, I declare the race a tie. So come inside and let us discuss the matter of prizes." They followed him through the gate in the high white wall into a garden. Green was the last colour they'd expected to see here at the top of the world, but green was all around them, the glowing greens of trees and grass speckled with red and golden flowers. "How did you grow all these plants?" asked Shackleton Jones. "I didn't grow them," said the Snowfather. "I made them out of snow." "Snow?" said Sideplate, reaching out to run his hands over a tree trunk. "Everything you see here is made of snow," said the Snowfather. "The special, anything snow that falls only here at the top of the world. Shape it into whatever you want. It will become real." He strode over to a drift of snow which had gathered against the wall of his palace. Kneeling, he scooped some up. He made it into a little snowbird. "There," he said, and as they watched, the white bird blushed and darkened, opened its bead-black eyes and flitted away to perch, singing on the branch of a tree. "Whatever you like," he said. For a moment, everyone was just too amazed to speak. Look at the little bird flying away. Look, even the polar bear is astonished. Then, with whoops and cheers, the travellers all threw themselves at that mound of snow and started to help themselves to clumps of it and shape those clumps into, well, whatever they could imagine. Shen made a little snow ship, which turned into the most perfect little real ship he'd ever seen, complete with rigging and anchor chains and all sorts of things he hadn't been able to sculpt in the snow, but which the snow knew he'd wanted anyway. He put it in his pocket and set to work making a snow treasure chest, filling it with snowy diamonds. "That's what Sir Basil's father did when he came here all those years ago," said Sideplate. He was busy making a snow bowler hat to replace his own, which was looking a bit battered after all his adventures. Meanwhile, Shackleton Jones was making snow cogs and snow wheels and snowy parts for some snow machine, and Helga was sculpting a big heap of snow into the shape of a polar bear, which shook itself and roared and went running off across the lawns to play with Snowdrop and Slush Puppy and the 66 pugs. "You can never have too many friendly polar bears," said Helga. And Seeker, she just stood and watched. And the Snowfather stood beside her, chuckling at the delight of the others as they busied themselves making snow things. "Always the same," he says, "ever since Uka first came here and discovered the anything snow." "What did she make?" asked Seeker. "Ah," said the Snowfather, "she was feeling rather lonely, having come so far all by herself, so she made a snowman She didn't even know that it was anything snow she was making him from. There they are, sitting together, Snowfather and Seeker. She didn't even know it was anything snow she was making him from, but she lay down to sleep beside him, and when she woke up... He'd come alive, said Seeker. The Snowfather smiled and nodded, remembering. And what about you, young Seeker? He asked. What will you make? I don't know, said Seeker. The thing I want isn't a thing. I came here to ask if you could make my grandpa better. Oh, my dear, said the Snowfather gently. I'm afraid that is a bit beyond me. But you grant wishes, don't you? That's what all the stories say. They say you'll give the winner their heart's desire. I think there's been a bit of a mix-up then, said the Snowfather. I am the guardian of the anything snow, but I can't grant wishes. If people have got their heart's desire by coming here, then either their heart's desire was something that they could make out of snow, or it was something which they found along the way, like your grandfather did. Do you remember my grandfather? Of course I do. Such a brave boy he was. I hoped he'd win, but Sir Basil's father beat him in the end. I suspect Sir Basil's father was a cheat like his son. But it didn't matter. Your grandpa didn't need to fill his pockets with snow jewels. Just the journeying here was prize enough for him. Just to see the wonders of the true winter. To go home with stories to tell. Such stories, said Seeker. And when he dies, there will be no more. Oh, no, said the Snowfather. All old things die in the end, but not stories. Stories go on, and new ones are always being born. Now, join the others before the snow is all used up. So Seeker ran to join Shen, who'd finished his chest of snow diamonds and was now busy making 66 snow bones for the 66 pugs. Seeker helped. While she was at it, she thought of a few things which she'd always wanted too, and together they made those out of the snow. And then, when everyone remembered how hungry they were, and started making snow food, which they carried inside and ate in a huge feast beside the Snowfather's roaring snow log fire, and while they ate, they all talked about what they were going to do next. I've got my wish, said Shackleton Jones. Snowbot has collected enough data and enough samples of these strange types of snow that I'll be kept busy for years. I'll be famous. I'll probably get a snowflake named after me, and I'm going to call in at the Lost Hope on my way home. It seems to me that what those Yetis really want is an electric dishwasher, and I'm just the man to make it for them. I'm going to buy Sir Basil's stately home, said Sideplate, and settle down and live there. If Sir Basil grows back to normal size, I shall let him stay on as my butler, and if not, he can move into one of the houses on my model train set. Yeah, said Sir Basil grumpily. He was sitting on a matchbox on the table, nibbling at a peanut, which was the size of a roast turkey for him. If it hadn't been for you interfering rotters, I'd have won the race and been the richest man in the world, not the titchiest. Oh, but you always were a small man, said the Snowfather. Inside you were always a tiny little man. You have just shrunk to fit yourself. The houses on my model train set are very nice, said Sideplate encouragingly. You can settle down there, sir. You'll certainly be the richest man in that world, so in a way you will have got your wish. Well, I'm going to settle down too, said Helga Hammerfest, who had talked quietly and seriously with the Snowfathers while the others were still eating. I'm going to stay right here. That is my wish. It is the perfect place for polar bears and for me too. There was never enough winter in the world for my liking. What about you, Shen? Asked the Snowfather. What is your wish? I'm going to take all these diamonds back to Snowdovia and buy a fantastic new ship, said Shen. But now that he had the money to buy a ship, he felt a bit sad about it. He'd be sorry to sail away from Seeker. When he looked at Seeker, he felt even sadder because, although she had a nice new snow-made hat and things, she hadn't come all this way for those. She'd come so the Snowfather could save her grandpa, and that was the one thing that the Snowfather could not do. After the feast they slept, a good night's sleep in white beds as deep and soft as snowdrifts. And when they woke, it was time to go home. Out in the Snowfather's gardens, Sideplate was strapping Sir Basil's lunchbox firmly to his sled, with Sir Basil buzzing inside it like a posh wasp. Shackleton Jones was preparing his own sled for takeoff. He'd fitted it with wings and propellers, which he'd made out of snow. He was being helped by Snowbot and a new robot called Snowbot 2, which Snowbot had made out of snow. You have to see this picture of Snowbot and Snowbot 2 getting into the new aeroplane-ly sledge. Helga was walking in the Snowfather's garden, watching her polar bears play on the lawn. "This is the place for me," she said happily. "Ever since I was a little girl I wanted to come here and stay. No more dreary springs and summers for me. Winter is best. Winter glitters." Shen and Seeker went to where they'd left Grandpa's sledge. It was looking rather the worse for wear after its long journey. The leads which tied the pugs to it were tattered and frayed. "It's a long way for small paws," said the Snowfather, watching while they started arranging the little dogs, and it was true. The pugs did not look happy at the thought of the long journey that lay ahead. "But we do have to go," said Seeker. "It's lovely here. We don't want to stay forever like Helga." And then she looked at the Snowfather and said, "I've been thinking about my wish. You know I cannot give you your heart's desire," said the Snowfather. "I know," she said. "But could you maybe give my grandpa his heart's desire instead?" "And what would that be?" "To see you just one more time," said Seeker. The Snowfather went quiet and thoughtful for a while. While he was thinking, Shackleton Jones's sledge went soaring overhead with Shackleton and the Snowbots waving from the windows. It circled the ice palace once and roared away into the southwest. "That's the only way to travel," said the Snowfather approvingly, shading his eyes to watch the flying sled as it dwindled amongst the northern lights. He turned, ran back into his garden to a fresh fall of anything snow which had appeared overnight. Shen and Seeker stood watching while he began shaping the snow into 6 big shapes. When he was finished, 6 huge elk shook themselves to life and started nibbling the grass, while the Snowfather made 6 red harnesses for them and led them outside to where Shen and Seeker's sledge was waiting. "Your dogs have run further than any pugs ever ran before," he said as he started tying the elk to the sledge. "It would be a pity to make them run all the way back again, too." There was hardly enough room on the sledge for Shen and Seeker and the Snowfather and Shen's snow treasure chest and the 66 pugs, but they all squeezed on somehow. And when everyone was aboard, the Snowfather shouted something to his elk, and off they set, galloping across the snow with the sledge rushing behind them, until the hiss of the sledge's runners suddenly faded, and Shen looked over the side. She saw they were flying. The elk had unfolded great tawny wings and were flapping southwards. The Snowfather's palace in its green ring of gardens was falling away below, with Helga Hammerfest waving and Sideplate looking up and waving too as he set out on his own journey. Shen waved back, but pretty soon the sledge was so high that he didn't think they could see him any more. He could see them, though. He could see everything. The icicle palace, the abyss with its broken bridges and the 50 different kinds of snow. He could see, far away, the lost hope. Further still, Kraken Deep and the dark forests where the pugs, yipping, had shaken down those dumps of snow. He could see all the wideness and wildness of the frozen north, spread out under the northern lights like a map, or the iced top of a gigantic Christmas cake. The Snowfather laughed and tugged on the elk's reins, and the sledge flew south towards the far-away, twinkling windows of Snowdovia. Don't you love the way that Sarah does her stars? I'd like to draw some stars like that. And look at those giant elk with their tawny wings. It reminds me of something, but I'm not sure what. And can you see the children and the Snowfather in the sledge? That's the end of chapter 13, and tomorrow I will read you chapter 14, and that, my friends, will be the end of the book, and we'll have to think of something else to read next. If you've got any great ideas about what to read next, maybe you could let me know, and if I've got it, maybe I can read it. And if not, maybe I'll think of something that I'd like to read. Until then, look after each other, be kind, and I'll see you very soon.